In this video, I want to talk about the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. So the angle of elevation and depression are the angles that are formed between a horizontal line and the line of the site. If the site, something that the observer is looking, it's above the horizontal line, like this one, between these two lines, we will have an angle, which we call it the angle of elevation. But if you have a horizontal line in front of the observer's eye, but the observer is looking something down below the horizontal line, it the angle that is formed between these two lines is called the angle of depression. So remember that always the angle of depression and elevation are always angles between the horizontal line and the line of the site. If it's looking up, that's angle of elevation. If it's looking down, that's angle of depression. Now we want to see how we can use these information and everything that we learned about the right triangle properties to solve word problems. The first example, it says the irregular blue shape in the figure represents a lake and the distance across the lake, which is A, is unknown. Okay, to find this distance, a surveyor took the measurement shown in the figure. So based on the information in this picture, we know that the distance from A to C is 750 yards and the angle of elevation from A to B is 24 degrees. We want to find the distance across the lake, which is A. So every time you are reading a word problem, always try to graph a picture for yourself. And most of the problem can be solved by having a right triangle. Try to find a right triangle out of the picture that you graph for yourself that let you to apply all of the properties of the right triangle. So right now you see a right triangle, one angle is given to us, and every time we have an angle, that means we are going to use one trigonometric function for that angle. We can use the sine or cosine or tangent, but we need to see based on the information that's given to us and the information that they're asking for, which one of those functions can helps us faster. For example, if in this picture I want to use the sine of 24 degrees, use the sine function. Based on the information that I have about sine function, I know that the sine is always opposite over hypotenuse. If the hypotenuse is called C, okay, I have A over C. I know the sine of 24 from the calculator, but I don't have A and don't have a C. When I have two variables, two unknown items, I cannot solve that problem. If I use the cosine of 24 degree, cosine is always adjacent over the hypotenuse. I can find the cosine of 24 by the calculator. I know the 750 and I can find C. But this question is not asking to find C. It's just asking to find the distance across the lake, which is A. So I'm not going to use this one as well. Let's try tangent. If I use tangent of 24 degree, tangent is the opposite over adjacent. I know the tangent of 24 by the calculator. I have the 750 yard, so I can easily find A, and that's my goal. So the best function here is tangent. So we write this one, and to find A, just remember that we always do the cross multiplying. Multiply A by 1, which is A, multiply 750 by the tangent of 24. And if you put these whole things in the calculator, it tells you that the answer is 333.9. Next example. It says a plane rises from takeoff and flies at an angle of 10 degrees with a horizontal runway. When it has gained 500 feet, find the distance to the nearest foot the plane has flown. So I try to create a picture. If that's a ground, that's a takeoff point. It says the plane rises from takeoff point and flies at an angle of 10 degrees. And when it has gained 500 feet, so that means when it's up 500 feet from the floor, find the distance that the plane has flown. That means find this. Okay, that's a picture. And you see I have a right triangle. So that means I can use the right triangle properties. And since one angle is given to us, we can see a better picture here. Since one angle is given to us, I need to use one of the trigonometric function for 10-degree angle. If I want to use sine, sine needs the opposite and the hypotenuse. The opposite is given to us, hypotenuse is what I want to find, so which means the sine is the best function here. So I'm going to use sine function. The sine of 10 degree is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse. And to find C, again, we are going to use cross multiply. C times sine 10 degree should equal to 500 times 1, which is 500. And to find C, we need to divide both sides by sine 10 degree. Which means C, or that distance, is equal to 500 divided by the sine of 10 degree. So I'm going to use the calculator and divide 500 by the sine of 10 degree. So 500 divided by sine of 10 degree. And the answer is 2,879. And since it says to the nearest foot, so I don't need the decimal part. And that's my final answer. The distance that the plane has flown is 2,879 feet. Next example. It says a radio tower is located 425 feet from a building. Okay, let's create a picture. That's ground. I have a building here, and I have a radio tower. Something like that. Okay. And it says the radio tower is 425 feet from the building. That means this distance is 425. From a window in the building, if there is a window here, a person determines that the angle of elevation to the top of the tower is 35. So if you have a horizontal line in front of the person's eye, the angle of elevation to the top of the tower is 35 degrees. And the angle of depression to the bottom of the tower is 28 degrees. Now it says, how tall is the tower? You want to find this distance. You want to find the height of the tower. When I look at this picture, I told you, you always need to find a right triangle. When I am looking at this picture, I actually see two right triangles. If you look at this tower as a straight line, you see there is a right triangle here, which is, let me just see if I can shade it by the highlighter. I have one right triangle here. and I have another right triangle here. So I have to use these two right triangles to find the height of the tower. But each of these right triangles gives me some part of the height. If I call this part, for example, A, and this part B, I need to find A from the first triangle, I need to find B from the second triangle, and then add them together to get the whole height of the tower. So it means that I have one right triangle. This is A, this is 35 degree, and this length is 425. I'm going to find A from this, and I have another right triangle, which this side is 425, this side is B, and this angle is 28, and I want to find B from this triangle. Let's see which function works in each of these triangles. Since one angle is given to us, let's see what side is given to us and what side is asking for to find. So they're asking to find the opposite side when the adjacent is given to us. Opposite and adjacent are for tangent function. So I'm going to use tangent function. So tangent of 35 degree is equal to A over opposite over adjacent. And it means that A, if you do the cross multiplying, A is equal to 425 times tangent of 35 degree. And if you put this one in calculator, it gives you 297.6. And the unit is feet. So that's feet. 297.6 feet. Okay, now it's time to find B from the other triangle. In this right triangle, this angle is given to me. I want to find the opposite side when the adjacent is given to me. Again, opposite and adjacent both are for the tangent function. So I'm going to use tangent again. So the tangent of 28 degree is equal to the opposite over adjacent. So to find B, I need to do the cross multiplying. And if I multiply 425 by the tangent of 28 degree and put it in the calculator, I will have 225.9 feet. Okay. A and B are parts of the height of the tower. But if they ask you how tall is the tower, you need to add these together. So the height of the tower is A plus B, which means 297 plus 6 plus 225 plus 0.9. And if I add them together, plus 225.9, the answer is 523.5 feet. That's the height of the tower. Another example. We have this picture and they're asking us to find X. Find this side. Just this part. Again, in this chapter, I'm trying to find a right triangle because I want to use right triangle properties. If I look at this picture, again, I see two right triangles. If I want to shape this, one of the right triangles are this triangle. This whole thing is a right triangle, right? So I have a right triangle. I have 101 on this side. I have a 20 degree for this angle. Okay. And I also have another triangle, another right triangle which is this one. Okay. So I have another right triangle, which this side is 101 and this angle is 55 degrees. And let's see what we can find from each of these triangles. Since I'm going to find this side, side A, side this part X, from the first triangle, I need to find this side, which I can call it A. I can name it A. And from the second triangle, I can find this side, which I can name it B. That's my A. That's the B. And after finding A and B, I can subtract them to find X. So let's see which function we can use. For the first triangle, I have a 20-degree angle. The opposite is given to me, and they're asking to find adjacent. Opposite and adjacent, again, it's a tangent function. So I can say the tangent of 20 degrees, it's the opposite over tangent, over adjacent. We are going to use the cross multiplying. So if I do the cross multiplying, A times tangent of 20 should be equal to 101. And if I divide both sides by the tangent of 20, A is 101 over tangent of 20. And don't forget, when you're typing this in the calculator, put the whole tangent of 20 in a parenthesis. Don't confuse the calculator for order operation. So we say 101 divided by tangent of 20, close the parenthesis, and the answer is 277.5, rounded to one decimal. From the second right triangle, again, I have a 55-degree angle. The opposite is given to me, and they're asking to find adjacent. Again, I'm going to use the tangent function. So we say the tangent of 55 degrees is equal to 101 divided by B. So do the cross multiplying. B times tangent of 55 is equal to 101. And divide both sides by the tangent, means B is equal to 101 over the tangent of 55. Put this one in calculator, see what do we get. 101 divide by, don't forget to open a parenthesis for the denominator, and the answer is 70.7. Now, if you want to find X, X is the difference between A and B. It means you have to have the A minus B. And if you subtract these two numbers, 277.5 minus 70.7, the final answer is 206.8. So now you have the X.